Look at this gorgeous weather. I mean, how is it even real that there is a Cat 5 hurricane looming just off the coast? This is the little beach area, and this is the pond that we have the most concern about flooding in the event that we do get torrential rains. This right here is I guess it was the bags of sand that the apartment complex provided. And there was 3 bags set out here. And we had to shovel our own. See, just sand. So it didn't all get gone. There's a little bit left. The shovel's gone. But it's just so crazy just to see how beautiful this weather is right now, and to think that we're within 48 hours of a potential catastrophic event going on the coast, which I'm on the Gulf Coast, and you know the big concern is the Atlantic coast. But gosh, it's just crazy how fast the weather can turn. Well, can you believe we are on day 5 of hurricane watch? Oh, this is like waiting on someone to go into labor and have a baby. This has been so crazy all week. It's like, it's coming. Wait a minute, no, it's not coming. Now it's coming. Wait a minute, it's coming, but it's not coming here. It's coming there. Oh my gosh, this has been the craziest week. Like, I know the weathermen, you know, science is science. Nothing is definitive, and they can really only go by what they're seeing on the radar and the measurements, you know, that are present at the time, and then make their best predictions, worst case and best case scenario. But this has been, because like originally, like a few days ago, this thing was moving in Saturday night into this morning, because today's Sunday, as a potential Cat 3 through Miami, across the south of Florida, and potentially up into the Gulf or straight up the center of Florida. Then yesterday it was like, okay, all of Southwest Florida is moved completely out of the cone. This thing's going to skirt up the coast, and now it might make landfall in South Carolina. So I get up this morning, and then there's yet more changes. The storm has made a little bit more of a westerly shift, which moved it a little bit more closer. And so now they've put us back in the potential for we could be getting tropical storm like winds, like 30 to 50 mile an hour winds, which could still obviously, you know, cause some power outages. And it's crazy. So if you haven't seen today, or you haven't heard today, we're officially a Cat 5 hurricane just off the coast. And I think really like barreling down on the Bahamas. So folks, like really, now is the time to hold those people in the Bahamas up in your thoughts, like for real. I don't know, I'm sure they probably did some evacuations from the islands. I haven't heard anything about any evacuations, so I don't know, and I can't say for sure, but you can only hope that those people, you know, got to safety before this thing comes, because they're having the sustained winds right now are currently 175 miles an hour. That's sustained winds. And I think they have had, the hurricane hunters have recorded a couple of wind gusts. I know one that was like right at or just under 200 mile an hour. Guys, that is catastrophic. Even just a wind gust at 200 miles an hour, that is very detrimental. I don't know if you remember Hurricane Michael when he came through last year. because this thing is still like out there on warm water and still has the potential to continue to gain strength and intensity before it touches any land. Hurricane Michael, when he came in, he was a Cat 5 at landfall. And if you remember the damage that he did to the panhandle, like around Panama City, but particularly Mexico Beach, I mean, that place looked like a war zone. But they recorded, they eventually like had recorded wind speeds of over 300 miles an hour, which is like a EF5 tornado winds. Like, he was such an unprecedented storm. And now it's almost like Dorian is like, she said it, or he, I don't know. Dorian's a female name, a male name. I've heard both. But anyway, I think it's supposed to be a male. Regardless of the name, the storm is setting itself up to be another Michael. Like, if it keeps gaining in intensity, and it's already like recording like just at 200-mile-an-hour winds, and this thing is like not even getting into the coast of Florida for another, what, 24 to 48 hours. I mean, this could be catastrophic. Even if this thing doesn't make landfall in Florida, just being up the coast, like riding up the coast like Hurricane Matthew did, with 200-mile-an-hour winds or 176-mile sustained winds, like, the coast of Florida is gonna see like so much effects of this. It's crazy. So, but then we are, you know, potentially can see some winds, like maybe like tropical storm-ish winds. But yeah, it's like literally every day is a different story. I thought today there wouldn't even be anything really to talk about, because last night it was like, you know, it was still it was a Cat 4 last night, but it was still like, you know, a while out. They were predicting it to, you know, stay off coast, go up, get up this morning. Oh, well, it's moved westerly. And now, you know, we're back on alert over here. We're not in any watches or warnings on the southwest, but we could still see some effects of this storm. Obviously, if it gets close enough to the coast and it's that strong of a storm, we will see something from it. I mean, if you see Florida on a map, it's not a wide state. So that's kind of it for today. But I do have a few things that I absolutely have to vent about, or, you know, talk about. First of all, I got some pictures, because I took screenshots because I just had to share some thoughts. Call it thoughts with Tina, I don't know. Okay, so if you watched my video from, I believe it was yesterday, when I was venting about people hoarding all the gas in the water, I made a screenshot of this post, and I cropped it down so that you can't see who posted it or any of the comments, but it was actually posted, I initially found it from law enforcement, who were telling people and advising people to not get your fuel in unapproved, you know, fuel containers. But if you can see this picture, this guy, he has like 4 of those Home Depot 5-gallon buckets that he's filling up with gas. And if you can see inside his SUV, he has like 3 or 4 5-gallon buckets in there. So if you figure that's what, 8 times 5, that's what, like 40 gallons of water. Is 8 times 5 40? I don't know, I suck at math. But the point is like, I kept thinking like the guy who couldn't find gas for his truck to go to work this weekend, and this guy's got like 8 5-gallon buckets full of gas in his SUV, and the family that couldn't find water with their baby. They couldn't make infant formula for their baby because there's no water left in Fort Myers. And we're not even in the area, you know. Yeah, we could have seen some flooding. Yeah, we could have had some power outages, but somebody needed to get water to this family with this baby. I don't know. I'm not trying to vent again today. But, so that was the one thing I wanted to show you guys. I wasn't joking when I said these people are hoarding resources. They're really doing this. Okay, so the next one is, oh, I gotta show you this. Like, we don't have enough going on right here. Okay, so yesterday I took a screenshot. I have a NOAA app. So I was like tracking like what's going on out there. You know, I try to keep it updated. So I don't know if you can see, but there's like this little area right here off the coast of, see, here's Dorian, is the little red hurricane. And this is like a little, what they call a tropical wave. So it just come off the coast of Africa, and it had as of yesterday, if you can see this, a 30% chance of forming a cyclone. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to keep our eye on that one. Because, okay, they moved us out of the cone for Dorian, but there's a little storm off behind her now that has a 30% chance of becoming something. So I checked today to update on it. Okay, and that one, okay, so that one has now become a 0% chance. It's doing nothing. Okay, good. It was only 30% yesterday. It's nothing today. Whew. Okay, behind it now. So this was it, and it's just going off up into the Atlantic because here's Dorian. Here's this other one going off into the Atlantic. But look the hell right here behind that one. Okay, so if you go up here and look, it says it has a 50% chance of making a cyclone formation in the next 2 days. Okay, well, we went from a 30% chance yesterday to a 50% chance today. And this right here is the, what's the 5-day forecast? So it's how much likelihood is in the next 5 days this going to do something. Well, if you see, it's red. And if you look at red, that means a greater than 60% chance. So Dorian is still, what, a good 24 to 48 hours between, before making landfall or doing whatever she's going to do to impact the eastern seaboard. And we already have a storm out there that has a 60% likelihood of forming a cyclone. But I guess that, you know, this is the peak hurricane season. It really is. And if you think about it, I mean, think Katrina hit in August, Matthew hit in September, Michael was October, Irma was September, Maria was September. And if you go even further back, Charlie was in, I think Charlie was in September. Maybe Charlie was August. But anyway, it was in that area. And Andrew, like all the big major hurricanes that have hit and really done the most damage have been in this August to October window. So I guess it's par for the course. So that was another thing. So now on top of, we haven't even figured out what Dorian is actually going to do. And now there's a 60% likelihood of another storm like coming right behind her. So, okay. So the next thing is this picture that I found on my local, and it'll say Week News because it's my local news, but this is a picture of, this is Dorian. This is the Bahamas, if you can see the Bahamas right there. This is Florida, and this is Fort Myers. Now that's where I'm at. So I'm right here where it says Fort Myers, if you can see Fort Myers. So, looking at this picture, I'm roughly about an inch away from the storm. That looks really big, and it looks like if you place it over the state of Florida, yeah, it'd cover the whole state. Again, Florida's not a wide state. So I was like, whoa, that's really a scary looking picture. So I referred to my handy dandy all hazard guide, and on the back it has this amazing hurricane tracking chart. Like, this is the best thing ever. Like, this book is going, like, honestly, it's really gonna be my best friend. So anyway, I did this little handy dandy you are here drawing. If you could see my fancy drawing, you are here. So this is literally me right here in Fort Myers, and right here's the Bahamas. So if Dorian's like right here, technically on a map, I'm an inch away from this storm. So, you know, if anything happens and this thing continues west, I'm an inch away from this storm. If it doesn't turn north like they're predicting it to do, I'm an inch away from this storm. So that's another area of concern. I was like, whoa, looking at it in a picture, like, oh my gosh, that thing is a little too close for comfort. Okay, last thing, I promise, last picture I have. I saw this article. Sorry, my camera overheated and I had to let it cool off. I'm obviously not that good at this whole vlogging thing, so I'm learning that as I go too. But what I was saying is I found an article this morning, and it says, Southwest Florida residents left with hurricane fatigue, no longer under Dorian's cone. And that's what it says. I know it's so hard to get this in. And I read the article, and it's like, I've learned so much, because that's a real thing. Like, and I never thought about it before, because in North Georgia, I've dealt with tornadoes. I'm a storm spotter. I volunteer with the Red Cross. I was with the fire department for 10 years. But honestly, like, a hurricane is so profoundly different. Because when, all my life, everybody's like, why do you want to live in Florida? They have hurricanes. And I'm like, well, we have tornadoes. Same thing. No, it's not the same thing. It's nowhere close to being the same thing. This is so different. Like, in Northwest Georgia, you get like these little like updates from the weather that says, hey, these days have a potential for severe weather, we'll monitor them, and you monitor them, and you have to have the sun, the heating, the unstable atmosphere. A lot of things sit in the moisture. Everything has to come into play. And then you'll have like this area that's in the area that could have a potential for a risk of tornadoes. But tornadoes are like hit or miss. You might get one here in the top part of this area. You might get a tornado that is kind of just outside of the watch area. But those kind of storms usually fire up, heat of the day, blow through really fast, usually relatively fast. Sometimes we get like the tornado outbreaks where we get like training tornadoes throughout a day. But for the most part, they come in, they're gone. This whole having 5 days to prepare for, it might happen, it's probably going to happen, it might not happen, who knows. This has been like, and preparing for a hurricane is so much different, like the sandbags. Like, I've never had to shovel and make my own sandbags. Like, I've never done that, but I've done it now. I don't think I've ever actually seen places run out of gas and food and water so fast. Like, even in North Georgia, when the snow and ice is coming, we buy up the bread and stuff. I mean, there's like the big joke about the bread and milk, but I've never seen stores like empty out so fast. And like everything, like, oh, get everything up high because you could have flooding. Like, I've been going through my little hazard guide, and just so much to learn. It's so different. So this whole hurricane fatigue, like, I totally get it, because this has been the most stressful week. And you know, I've had a lot. Like the first couple of days, honestly, I didn't think about anything. I was running purely on adrenaline. It was like doing all the steps, like packing everything, getting everything up, making sure I had supplies, making sure I knew where all the phone chargers were, getting those sandbags. Like literally, the first 3 days is nothing but prepping. But then starting yesterday, like I had everything done, like everything on my checkoff list was done. And it's like, then you're just set with your thoughts, you know, like, okay, this thing still is out there and there's still a lot of uncertainty about it. I mean, like, even though it's forecast to turn north, like they don't know until they know, you know? And this has just been like, I've done a lot of reflecting on this. Like mentally, I'm exhausted. Like this has just been a really hard week to get through. And I've done most of my thinking about reflecting about my family back in Georgia because, you know, I mentioned, if you've been following these videos, I had mentioned about like when I've gone through natural disasters in the past, like a tornado, a flood in the past, and a fire, and how the communities that I'm from like rally around. And I worked in the fire department and EMS for, you know, 8 years, and we, you know, like I've just seen so much of a community that comes together, you know, when disaster strikes. And I'm not seeing that down here. Like, I'm not trying to throw anybody in Florida under the bus by any means. It's just, I think Florida is just made up of so many people. I mean, I know there are natives to Florida, but there are so many people that move down here from other states. And the city that I'm in is a relatively big city. I mean, it's not like Atlanta, but it's still a pretty big city. And I just think that there's so many people here who are transplants. I myself am a transplant here. But people just don't know each other. Like, and there's just not that whole, like, you know, that just community looking after each other. I'm not seeing that, and it's really kind of sad. But this week has been very stressful to go through this, and just being here by myself and going through this alone and not having anyone to talk to, you know, through it. Like when I'm scared, I don't have anyone to talk about being scared. When I feel like I want to cry, I don't have anyone, you know, that'll like let me cry and just say it's okay. And I think after this is all said and done, I love Florida. And there's a part of me that was so sad to think about leaving here, but going through this by myself, I think I'm really ready to go home now, because I don't ever want to go through something like this alone. And I can't imagine it. But I know Florida has like such a reputation, and Florida's kind of like the redheaded stepchild. I've seen so many lists of like southern states that Florida isn't even on the list. And I know Florida man has made Florida the butt of so many jokes. But I have such a respect for the people that live here, especially these long-term veteran natives of Florida, like the people who have been here. I cannot imagine to have to go through this year after year. Like if you think about it, I mean, there was Matthew in 16, Irma in 17, Michael in 18, and now this potential Dorian in 19. So for literally the last 4 years, like this state has been like just completely under the gun with these, you know, major hurricanes. And I cannot imagine the stress that these natives go through, having to be going through this for their whole lives every year. So now when people say, why would you want to live in Florida? They have hurricanes. I guess the thing is like, I don't want to live in Florida anymore. And that's sad to say, but I don't want to be here alone and ever go through something like this again. That's for sure. That's for sure. So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get all emotional about this. I'm really torn because part of me is really sad to think about leaving here because I love the beach. I love Fort Myers, but going through this is just really made me realize how isolated I am here, and I have no one, and this is not something that you want to go through alone. And it's time for me to go back home. So anyway, thank you for watching if you've made it all the way through to the end, and keep the Bahamas, keep all of Florida in your thoughts, and Georgia, the Carolinas. I mean, this could be another, Matthew. We tear up all these southeastern states. So just, keep everyone in your thoughts. Oh, and Texas, on top of all of this hurricane, scare and preparedness, I saw there was another mass shooting in Texas. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? I got an alert from the Weather Channel. But anyway, keep Texas in your thoughts as well. So be blessed. Bye.